Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Spots on a Leopard, no other than Miss Deborah Susan.
Hello.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Deborah. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, thank you. I am a certified healthcare aide, which is one step before nursing. I'm also a teen suicide attempt survivor, and my book, Spots on a Leopard, EMDR Saved My Life, is a record of everything that I suffered at the hands of very abusive parents. I attempted suicide the first time at age 12, the second time at age 19. And I had a very good doctor the second time. And he helped me to realize that life is worth living and to keep on going. Now, you have to understand, that was back in 1972. And
72.
between 1972 and age 19 and 2015 and age 61, I went to therapy off and on to deal with my PTSD and to try to maintain and continue a normal life. And when I was 61 in 2015, I started the EMDR therapy. And then I finally realized healing. My therapist encouraged me to finish my book. And the reason it's called Spots on a Leopard, excuse me, is because I walked into the office one day when I had a session with her. And I said, "Are we trying to change spots on a leopard here?" Because I had realized that what I was fighting with and dealing with had been with me since infancy. And she said to me, "Deborah, those spots were never yours to begin with. Your parents put them there, and we're going to take them off one at a time." And for the first time at age 61, I had hope that I was going to be able to live a happy, peaceful life within myself. And sure enough, EMDR did it for me. So I wrote the book, and I've also written a program for suicide prevention, and it is a prevention program rather than an intervention program. And it is on the website survivorsofhopelessness.com.
Miss Deborah Susan, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, what the central themes or message did you want to explore through Spots on a Leopard?
My book concludes with "Wait one more day." And the reason it concludes with that is when you fantasize about taking your own life, and I did that from the age of 10 probably until I tried at 12 and then again at 19. What happens is you create neural pathways in your brain, and so that becomes a habitual behavior pattern. It's a habitual thinking pattern. So whenever I was challenged, whenever things became challenging or I was failing at something, then these thoughts would start pushing me towards committing suicide. And now I was the opposite. I was trying to resist committing suicide. And the way I handled that for years, and this went on for at least 10 years, and every couple of months it would come up, every 3, 4, 5 months it would come up. And what I would do is I would write down everything. I would write my goodbye letters, I would write down how I was going to do this, and I would put it all in an envelope and put it on the kitchen table. And then I could sleep because it perpetuates when you go down the rabbit hole and you have the anxiety and all the pressure. You can't, it keeps you from sleeping, and so loss of sleep makes matters worse, and so it just perpetuates. Well, by writing this out, and I didn't realize this till later, by writing all this out and putting it on the table and going to bed and getting a good night's sleep, when I woke up in the morning, I felt fine. And the deal I made with God is if I wake up in the morning and I feel this bad, you have to forgive me for taking my own life because you saw what I went through. You saw how I was treated and deprived and how my parents, they treated me worse than an animal. So that was my deal. And when I finally received the EMDR healing, I wrote in the book and I said, wait one more day, write it down. That's a tool that you can use to resist taking your own life. And now I have a prevention program so that people don't even get to that hopelessness. They don't even reach that level where they want to commit suicide. So this is much better.
So, Miss Deborah, the phrase "a leopard doesn't change its spots" suggests permanence. Does your book challenge or affirm this idea?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
The phrase "a leopard does not change its spots"
Oh,
suggests.
yes, yes, yes. Well, like I said, the therapist told me that those spots weren't mine, that I was seeing at the time, and that the EMDR therapy was going to remove them one at a time, and it did. And so, yeah, that's why I called it Spots on a Leopard, because that was the turning point. That was the day that I received the hope that I needed, that I was actually going to find healing this time. And I had been through a lot of therapy, a lot of different therapies by that time. So, yeah.
So, Miss Deborah, what challenges did you face while writing Spots on a Leopard?
Well, the biggest challenge is suicide is still a very taboo subject. People still recoil, make faces when you want to talk about it. I go to different networking groups online, and the one time one of the organizers of this group was still on camera and he didn't know it. And when I introduced myself and said that I was a teen suicide attempt survivor, he literally recoiled and made a horrible face. And he was on camera, like everybody saw him. And nobody, everybody thinks, oh, it doesn't apply to me. My child would never consider that. I would never think of doing that, you know. So it's very difficult to get people to understand the prevention program that I have for students teaches students, they're on the ground floor with the students that are at risk. I'm talking about ages 8 to 13 specifically, but we deal with 8 to adult. So that's the biggest challenge, is getting people to even be willing to discuss.
Miss Deborah, which character did you find the most complex or intriguing to write and why?
Well, the character, this my book is written as if I were writing a letter to a friend
Yes.
and telling this person what happened to me. And I changed the names of the characters in the book to protect the guilty, but they all know who they are. Um, the most difficult one, I guess, that I had to discuss would have been my daughter's dad. That was the most difficult one because he knew that I had challenges, and he turned on me and ostracized me, and yeah, he, instead of finding me help or wanting to help me, he punished me more. He punished me because I was not perfect and I had this problem, and he chose to punish me. And that was the hardest thing to deal with when I was still dealing with the PTSD and everything that was going on with me. And yeah, that was the hardest because I had to leave my little girl. My daughter was 3 years old at the time, and I had to run for my life because if I'd stayed with him, I would have taken my own life. He was just so toxic. And so anyway, yeah, I had to leave, and I didn't go back. I didn't go all the way back home. I stayed in the city where my daughter and my ex husband were, so that I could have some type of relationship with her, and it worked. Today, in fact, we live together, and I'm helping her with her son. And yeah, so that was the hardest that I went through.
So, is there a particular scene or chapter you're most proud of, or that was especially powerful to write?
The last one, because the last chapter is the victory. The last chapter is the healing. The last chapter is when I step out and I start putting together this program and the website to reach out to help others so that I could spend my retirement years doing that. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. I started with the program back in 2018 when I turned 65. I'll be 72 this June, and it's going very well. Mostly local. We haven't gone as far reaching as I would like to, but I think with time, I'm starting to make connections with different um, organizations that work with suicide prevention and intervention. There's one in Florida and there's one in California. And so I'm going to just spread myself right across the country.
Spread your wings. So, Miss
Right.
Deborah, what conversations do you hope this book will spark among readers?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What conversations do you hope this book will spark among readers?
Suicide prevention techniques and talking to their children. I often find parents say, I don't want my children talking about suicide. And they think if you talk about it, you're going to give them ideas. That's not the way it works. And it's the same when I was younger, they started sex education in schools. And this was a big deal. I mean, parents were, up in arms about it because, and we're saying, well, who do you want your student to learn about this from? Do you want to show them and show them the ropes and be in charge and take control of that information? Or do you want them to find out from their peers? Because that's where they'll find it out. That's where I found out about sex education before they had it in schools from my peers. My parents didn't talk about that. So it's the same thing. We've just come full circle, and people are not willing. Parents aren't willing to talk about it yet. But I'm hoping that if we keep knocking on the door and keep saying, "Come on, it's not going to hurt too much. Let's talk about this."
Let's talk about it. People to empower our Gen Z people. So, Miss Deborah, is this book autobiographical or fictional or mix of both?
No, it's autobiographical. It's my autobiography.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
that's
a true
awesome.
story. It's a true account of my life. You
So, do you believe people can truly change, or are we all just leopards with spots?
with all the spots. Well, I'm living proof that you can
Yeah.
change. Absolutely. And my daughter can certainly attest to that. She's known me all her life. And now that she's 40 and an adult herself and raising a child, yeah, she can see and understand and appreciate the changes that she has seen her mom go through, and the much healthier way that I am able to function and live my life. And we face challenges her and I, and we make it happen. Her son
Really?
is 8 years old. He'll be nine in July, and he has a lot of extracurricular activities going on. So between the two of us, we make it happen one way or another. So even tonight, I had to go pick him up from school and get him over to her work and feed him in the car so that he could get to a course, a special course that he's taken. And yeah, we just make it work, and it's wonderful.
Amazing.
It's almost like I've had a second chance because my daughter, like I said, she was 3 when I left, and I was the visiting parent. And she lived full time with her dad until she was 14. Then she did move in with me. And so from 14 until 22, she moved out and got her own place. And she was in university at the time. But yeah, it's wonderful.
Congratulations, Miss Deborah. You did it. You did it.
Yes.
So, what has been the most surprising response you received from a reader?
The most surprising response was when a friend of mine felt it was necessary to burn the book. And I thought to myself,
Okay.
well, the only other book that was burned that I know of that, ferociously was the Bible itself. So I guess I'm in good company. And the other one was, of course, someone contacting me and asking me for an autograph. And I was invited into they have a little book club. And I was able to speak to all the members. There were six ladies that get together, and they're parents. They're all parents, and so that was a big surprise. And I was hoping that it would evolve, like it would evolve into more, but it didn't because people are not comfortable talking about it. So it was okay amongst their group, right? Their group of six, but
Yes,
they themselves did not talk to anybody else outside their group about it. So that was disappointing.
certainly. So, Miss Deborah, what would be your short term and long term goals in writing?
In writing, I wanted to do the next one, Spots on a Leopard, and I wanted it to be an account of my life from the time I finished that book until the moment that I finished the second book, which would include the journey of putting together the website, doing the instructional video. That was a real shocker. How much went into that and how much we had to do to make that instructional video that is available on the website. And I wrote the workbooks. They're actual
Mm.
physical books. They open up to an 11 by 17 page piece of paper. So they open. They're nice and big, plenty of room for notes. Again, because we're talking to people 8 years old on up. So, and I'm convinced that if parents were to visit that information once a year, from the time the child was 8, 9, or 10, whatever they feel is emotionally best for them, until they graduate high school, those people will walk into a world where suicide would be extinct. It wouldn't even be considered as an option anymore.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Deborah, and looking forward for more and more empowering books like this to come. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Mental Health 101, in its first season. People first season with Mr. Jimmy Smith. So please do listen to our latest episode. For sure, we are empowering our listeners through our mental health awareness. So please do listen. Mental Health 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, what's one lasting thought or question you hope readers carry with them after finishing Spots on a Leopard?
Again, I would ask parents, who would you prefer your children learn about suicide from? Take control go to survivors of hopelessness.com, and all the information's there.
Miss Deborah Susan, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support Spots on a Leopard, where they can buy Miss Deborah your book?
Are we off the air?
No, where they can buy your book, Miss?
Oh,
Yes,
sorry. Amazon. You
only
can
on
go to
Amazon.
Amazon, and if you put in the entire title, and you do have to put in the whole title, Spots on a Leopard, EMDR saved my life.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Deborah Susan, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Deborah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.